The signal came at 3 in the morning, Earth time. It cut through the silence of space like a scream in an empty room. Every radio station on the planet picked it up. Every satellite turned toward the source. And in the deep underground bunker of the United Earth Command, Admiral Tae-won sat up from his desk where he had fallen asleep over reports. The lights in the command center turned red. Officers ran to their stations. Screens flickered to life with data streams that no one could read at first. The signal was not in any human language. It was not even close to anything humans had ever heard before. "What is it?" Tae-won asked. His voice was calm, but his heart was beating fast. A young officer named Hana worked at her computer with quick fingers. She was the best translator in the fleet. Languages were her gift. But this was something new. This was alien. "It is a distress call, sir," she said after a long minute. "The translation program is working on it now. But the pattern is clear. Someone is asking for help." Tae-won walked to the main screen. The signal came from a star system over 4,000 light-years away. That was far. Very far. But human ships had gotten fast in the last 50 years. War had a way of making technology grow quickly. The message became clear on the screen. The words appeared in simple English after the computer finished its work. "This is the Valoran Collective. We are a peaceful federation of 12 worlds. The Damari Empire has attacked us without warning. Our defense forces are destroyed. Our cities burn. Our people die. We send this message to any who can hear. We beg for help. We beg for mercy. Please. Anyone. Help us." The room went quiet. Every officer stared at the screen. Some of them had tears in their eyes. Others had hard faces that showed no emotion. They had all seen war. They had all lost friends and family in the great conflict that almost destroyed Earth 30 years ago. They knew what it meant to be desperate. They knew what it meant to have no hope. Commander Yuna entered the room. She was Tae-won's second in command. A woman of 40, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. She read the message on the screen and said nothing for a long moment. "Do we know who they are?" she asked. "No," Tae-won replied. "First contact. Real first contact. Aliens exist. And they are dying." "The Damari Empire," Yuna said. "That sounds like a military force. A conquering force." "Yes, it does." Another officer, a man named Sung-ho, looked up from his station. "Sir, I am picking up more signals now. The computer is translating them. They are military communications. The Damari are organized. They have hundreds of ships. The Valorans have nothing left. Their fleet was small to begin with. They were not warriors." Tae-won closed his eyes. In his mind, he saw the burning cities of Earth from 30 years ago. He remembered the screams. He remembered the bodies. He remembered the long years of fighting that followed. Humanity had survived, but it had changed. The nations of Earth had united under one flag. They had built the greatest war fleet in human history. Not because they wanted to conquer, but because they never wanted to be helpless again. "How long would it take to reach them?" Tae-won asked. "With our fastest ships, about 6 days in hyperspace," Sung-ho answered. 6 days, Yuna repeated. "That is a long time when your world is burning." Tae-won turned to face his officers. There were about 50 people in the room. Men and women from every nation on Earth. All of them wore the same uniform. All of them had the same mission: to protect humanity. But now, something bigger was happening. "I need to speak with the council," Tae-won said. "Wake them up. All of them. This cannot wait." Within the hour, the United Earth Council was assembled. 12 leaders from 12 regions of the planet. They met through video screens because there was no time to gather in person. Tae-won stood before them and explained the situation. "We have received a distress call from an alien civilization," he said. "They call themselves the Valoran Collective. They are being attacked by another alien force called the Damari Empire. The Valorans have asked for help. They have asked anyone who can hear them." The council members looked at each other. Some of them were scared, some were excited, Some were confused. "This is a matter for diplomats," said one of the leaders, a man from the European sector. "We should send a message first. Learn more about them. Understand the situation." "With respect," Taewon replied. "By the time diplomats finish talking, the Valorans will be dead. All of them. But we do not know these aliens," said another leader, a woman from the Asian sector. "We do not know if they are good or bad. We do not know if this is a trap." "That is true," Taewon agreed. "But I know one thing. They asked for help, and in all my years as a soldier, I have learned that when someone asks for help, you either answer or you live with the guilt forever." Commander Yuna stepped forward. The distress call was sent on an open frequency. That means they were desperate. They did not care who heard it. They just wanted someone to come. The Damari, whoever they are, did not ask for peace. They did not negotiate. They attacked without warning. That tells me everything I need to know about them. The council was quiet for a long moment. Finally, the oldest member, a man named Dae Jung from the Korean sector, spoke. "We built our fleet to protect Earth," he said slowly. "But what is Earth without its soul? If we ignore this call, if we let innocent people die when we could have helped, then we are no better than the enemies we fear." One by one, the council members voted. The result was not unanimous, but it was enough. 10-2, in favor. "Admiral Taewon," Dae-jung said, "you have your orders. Take the fleet, save who you can, and show the galaxy what humans are made of." Taewon saluted. "Yes, sir." Within 3 hours, the United Earth War Fleet began to mobilize. 200 ships of all sizes, carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and battleships. 50,000 soldiers, pilots, and crew members. They had trained for years for a war that might never come. Now, they had a purpose. As the fleet prepared to enter hyperspace, Taewon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Resolve. Commander Yuna stood beside him. "Do you think we are doing the right thing?" she asked quietly. Taewon looked at the stars through the viewport. "I do not know," he admitted. "But I know that if we do nothing, I will never be able to sleep again." The engines roared, the stars stretched into lines of light, and the human warfleet vanished into hyperspace, racing toward a destiny none of them could imagine. 6 days in hyperspace felt like 6 years. The crew of the United Earth War Fleet spent every moment preparing. They checked their weapons. They ran battle simulations. They studied the little information they had about the Velorans and the Damari. But mostly, they waited. Waiting was always the hardest part. Admiral Taewon barely slept. He spent his nights looking at star maps and reading the distress call over and over again. The words burned in his mind. "We beg for help. We beg for mercy." He had heard those words before, not from aliens, but from his own people, 30 years ago, when Earth was tearing itself apart. Commander Yuna found him in his quarters on the 5th night. He was sitting at his desk, staring at nothing. "You should rest," she said. "I cannot," he replied. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The Valorans. I imagine what they look like. I imagine their children, their families, all waiting for someone to save them." Yuna sat down across from him. "We are coming. That is more than most would do. Is it enough? What if we are too late? What if we get there and find nothing but ashes? Then we will make the Damari pay for every ash," Yuna said simply. "That is also something." On the 6th day, the fleet prepared to exit hyperspace. Every ship moved into battle formation. Weapons were loaded. Shields were raised. Fighter pilots sat in their cockpits, ready to launch at a moment's notice. Captain Minho commanded the assault carrier UES Thunder. He was a young man, only 32 years old. But he had proven himself in a dozen battles. His pilots trusted him with their lives. "All squadrons ready," reported Lieutenant Sora, his wing commander. She was even younger than Minho, but her skills in a fighter were legendary. Some called her the Ghost, because enemies never saw her coming. "Good," Minho said. Remember, we do not know what we are flying into. Stay sharp, stay together, and do not be heroes. Heroes die young. The countdown began. 10 seconds. 9. 8. The stars outside the viewports began to change. The lines of light grew shorter. 5. 4. 3. Reality snapped back into focus. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace above Velaran Prime. What they saw was worse than anything they had imagined. The planet below was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked almost like Earth. But above it, death waited. Hundreds of Damari warships formed a tight blockade around the planet. Their ships were black and angular, like knives made of metal. Weapons fire rained down on the surface. Cities burned. Smoke rose into the atmosphere. Between the Damari fleet and the planet, a few dozen Velaran ships fought desperately. They were small and elegant, designed for speed rather than combat. Most of them were already damaged. Some drifted dead in space, nothing but wreckage. By all the stars, Yuna whispered. Taewon's jaw tightened. Open a channel to the Damari command ship. Let them know we are here. The communication officer, a man named Hyun-woo, worked quickly. Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Taewon of the United Earth War Fleet, Taewon said, his voice hard as steel. You will stop your attack immediately. You will withdraw from this system. If you do not, we will destroy you. For a long moment, there was no response. Then a voice came through, speaking in a language the translator quickly converted to English. The voice was cold and amused. Humans, we have heard of your species. Small, weak, young. You have no place in this matter. Leave now, and we will let you live. Stay, and you will die with the Valorans. Taewon smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You have heard of us? Good. Then you know what we did to each other in our great conflict. Imagine what we will do to you. He cut the channel. All ships, he commanded. Battle stations, weapons free. Show these monsters what human steel can do. The Damari did not expect what happened next. They had fought many species across the galaxy. Most of them surrendered quickly. Most of them valued their lives too much to fight impossible odds. But humans were different. The human fleet charged forward like wolves. Not in neat formations, but in waves that shifted and changed. Carriers launched fighters that swarmed through space like angry bees. Destroyers rushed ahead, drawing fire away from the heavier ships. Cruisers moved to flanking positions, targeting the Damari from unexpected angles. On Velaran Prime, the surviving defenders watched in shock. They had expected no one to answer their call. They had prepared to die, and now, strange ships with strange markings were attacking the Damari with a fury they had never seen. Who are they? Asked the Valoran commander, a being named Telos. He was old for his species, his blue skin faded with age, his 4 eyes tired from days without sleep. The signal we sent, said his aide, a young female named Lyra. Someone answered, but who? We sent that signal everywhere. To the whole galaxy. No one was supposed to hear it except maybe distant colonies. Lyra checked her instruments. Their communications use a primitive radio frequency. Their ships are unusual, heavy armor, many weapons. They fight like they do not care if they die. Telos watched as a human destroyer rammed directly into a Damari cruiser, both ships exploding in a ball of fire. More human ships rushed to fill the gap. They are insane, he whispered. Beautifully insane. In the chaos of battle, Lieutenant Sora led her squadron through the heart of the Damari formation. Her fighter twisted and spun, dodging laser fire that would have killed any normal pilot. She had trained for years in simulations, but nothing compared to real combat. The fear, the excitement, the strange calm that came when death was all around. Ghost Squadron, follow my lead, she said through her radio. Target their communication arrays, blind them. 12 fighters followed her. They were small compared to the massive warships around them, but they were fast, and their pilots, were the best Earth had to offer. Sora's finger pressed the trigger. Her weapons tore through a Damari antenna array. The enemy ship went dark, unable to coordinate with its allies. "Good hit," Minho's voice came through the radio. "Keep moving. Do not let them lock onto you." The battle raged for hours. The Damari were surprised. But they were not defeated. They had more ships, more firepower. They began to reorganize, to adapt to human tactics, but so did the humans. When the Damari formed tight groups, human torpedoes broke them apart. When they spread out, human fighters picked them off one by one. When they tried to retreat, human destroyers cut off their escape. Admiral Taiwan stood on the bridge of the Resolve, watching the battle unfold. His ship had taken damage. Fires burned on 3 decks. But the crew kept fighting. "Sir," Hyunwoo reported, "the Valorans are hailing us. Put them through." Commander Telos appeared on the screen. His alien face showed an emotion that needed no translation. "Hope, human admiral," Telos said, his voice shaking. "We do not understand. Why? Why did you come? You do not know us. We are nothing to you." Taewon looked at the alien commander. In that moment, they were not different species. They were just 2 soldiers, fighting for survival. "You asked for help," Taewon said simply. "We heard you. We came." Talos was silent for a long moment. Then he bowed his head, a gesture of respect in his culture. "We will never forget this," he said. "Whatever happens, we will never forget." The battle was far from over. The Damari were regrouping. Their flagship, a massive vessel 3 times the size of the Resolve, was moving toward the front lines. But for the first time in days, the Valorans had hope. And hope, Taewon knew, was the most dangerous weapon of all. The battle for Valoran Prime entered its 2nd day. By then, both sides had lost many ships. The space around the planet was filled with wreckage. Broken metal floated everywhere. Some of it was human, some of it was Damari. Some of it was Valoran. In war, debris had no nationality. Captain Minho had not slept in 30 hours. His eyes were red and tired, but he could not rest. His carrier, the Thunder, was the heart of the human fighter operations. Without it, the small craft had nowhere to land, nowhere to refuel, nowhere to repair. The pilots depended on him. "Status report," he said to his crew. A young officer named Ji-yeon looked up from her console. "We have lost 42 fighters. Another 60 are damaged but can still fly. Pilot casualties are at 31 dead, 18 wounded." Minho closed his eyes for a moment. 31. Each one was a person he knew. Each one had a family back on Earth. Each one had trusted him to bring them home. "And the enemy?" he asked. "We have destroyed or disabled over 80 Damari vessels. But they still outnumber us. Their flagship remains untouched. It is staying back, letting the smaller ships do the fighting." "Smart," Minho muttered. "They are waiting for us to get tired. Then they will strike with everything they have." In the fighter bay, Lieutenant Sora was helping her mechanics repair her ship. Her hands were covered in oil and coolant. She had slept for maybe 2 hours since the battle started. But she could not stop. Her squadron needed her. "How bad is it?" asked her wingman, a pilot named Dong-hyun. He was tall and quiet, the kind of man who said little but did much. "The left engine is damaged," Sora replied. "I can fly, but I cannot turn as fast. It will have to be enough. You should rest. Let someone else lead the next mission." Sora shook her head. "I cannot. The new pilots look at me. They follow me. If I stop, they will lose hope. I have to keep flying." Dong-hyun understood. He did not argue. Instead, he picked up a tool and started helping her with the repairs. On the bridge of the Resolve, Admiral Tae-won studied the battle map. The situation was not good. The human fleet had done incredible damage to the Damari, but they were running low on ammunition. Their ships were damaged, their crews were exhausted, and the Damari flagship still waited in the back, fresh and ready. "We need to end this soon," Commander Yuna said. reading his thoughts. If this drags on another day, we will not have the strength to finish it. I know, Taewon replied. The question is how. The flagship, Yuna said. If we destroy it, the Damari will lose their command structure. They will panic. They will retreat, but it is heavily protected. We cannot get close enough to hurt it. Then we need to draw it out. Make it come to us. Taewon looked at the map. An idea was forming in his mind. It was dangerous. It might not work. But it was the only option they had. Get me Captain Minho, he ordered. Minutes later, Minho's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked tired but determined. Sir, he said, Captain, I need your fighters to do something very dangerous. Minho almost smiled. Everything we have done so far has been dangerous, Admiral. This is different. I need your squadrons to attack the Damari flagship directly. Not to destroy it. That is impossible with fighters alone. But to hurt it. To make the commander angry. To make him come forward. Minho was quiet for a moment. That will cost lives, sir. Many lives. I know, and I am sorry. But if we do not end this battle soon, everyone dies. The Velerans. Your pilots. All of us. There was a long pause. Then Minho nodded. I understand. We will do it. When do you need us? In 2 hours. Prepare your best pilots. This mission is for volunteers only. Sir, every pilot on this ship will volunteer. Taewon felt a mix of pride and sorrow. I know. That is what makes them heroes. 2 hours later, 100 human fighters launched from the Thunder. Lieutenant Sora led the attack, her damaged ship flying at the front of the formation. Dong-hyun was on her wing. As always, all pilots, listen carefully, Sora said through the radio. Our target is the Damari flagship. We are not trying to destroy it. We are trying to make it angry. Hit their weapons, hit their sensors, hit anything that looks important, then get out. Speed is everything. Do not slow down for anything. The fighters raced across the battlefield. Damari ships tried to intercept them, but human pilots were faster and more agile. They weaved through laser fire like water flowing through rocks. Some were hit, some exploded, but most got through. The Damari flagship grew larger in their viewports. It was enormous, black as night, covered in weapons. It looked like a fortress floating in space. Break into attack groups, Sora ordered. Hit them from all sides. Go! The fighters split apart like a flower opening. They came at the flagship from every direction. Their small weapons seemed useless against the massive ship. But they found weak points. Sensor arrays, antenna clusters, weapon cooling systems, small targets that a big ship could not protect. Sora's fingers danced on her controls. She flew close to the flagship's hull, so close she could see the metal plates. Her weapons fired again and again. Explosions bloomed across the enemy ship. This is for everyone you have killed, she whispered. The Damari commander was furious. His voice came through the radio, screaming orders in his harsh language. The flagship began to move forward, its massive engines glowing with power. They are taking the bait, Dong-hyun reported. All pilots, pull back, Sora commanded. Mission accomplished. Let the big ships handle this now. The fighters turned and fled. Behind them, the Damari flagship chased, eager for revenge. It pushed through its own defensive line, leaving the protection of the smaller ships. On the Resolve, Taewon watched with grim satisfaction. Now, he said, all ships, focus fire on the flagship. Everything we have. 200 human ships turned their weapons toward one target. Missiles, lasers, railguns, and torpedoes all fired at once. The space between them and the flagship filled with death. The flagship's shields held it first. They glowed bright blue under the assault. But shields could not last forever. Cracks appeared. Sections failed. Explosions ripped through the hull. But the flagship was not dead yet. It fired back. Its weapons were powerful. A single shot destroyed a human cruiser. Another crippled a destroyer. The cost of victory was being paid in blood. The Domari commander realized his mistake too late. He tried to retreat, but human ships had moved behind him, cutting off his escape. He was surrounded. "Surrender," Taewon broadcast. "Your ship is lost. Your fleet is broken. Surrender, and your crew will live." The response was a scream of rage and another volley of weapons fire. "So be it," Taewon said quietly. The battle around the flagship was brutal. Ships on both sides were destroyed. The flagship's weapons carved through human vessels like a knife through paper. But for every human ship that fell, 10 more took its place. The flagship was being torn apart piece by piece. In her fighter, Sora watched from a distance. She had lost 12 pilots in the attack. 12 friends. 12 families that would receive bad news when this was over. "Is it worth it?" Donghyun asked. As if reading her thoughts, Sora looked at Valoran Prime below them. She could see the cities through the smoke. She could imagine the people hiding there, praying for salvation. "It has to be," she said. "It has to be worth it. Otherwise, what are we fighting for?" The flagship's engines exploded, then its reactor. The ship broke apart in a massive fireball that lit up the darkness of space. The Domari commander died without ever understanding why humans had come so far to save strangers. But the battle was not over yet. The Domari fleet still had ships, and they were not ready to give up. The destruction of the Domari flagship changed everything. The enemy fleet fell into chaos. Without their commander, they did not know what to do. Some ships tried to retreat. Others kept fighting. A few simply stopped, drifting in space like lost animals. But one group of Domari ships had a different plan. They were the elite guard of the Empire. The most loyal. The most dangerous. When they saw their flagship die, they did not panic. They did not run. Instead, they turned their weapons toward the planet below. If they could not win, they would destroy everything. "Admiral," Hyunwoo shouted from his station. 16 Domari warships are breaking formation. They are heading toward the civilian population centers on the planet's surface. Taewon's blood went cold. "Can we stop them? Our ships are scattered across the battle zone. We cannot reach them in time." On the surface of Valoran Prime, millions of people looked up at the sky. They had watched the battle with hope in their hearts. They had seen the strange aliens from a distant world fight for them. They had believed they might survive. Now, death was falling toward them. Commander Telos sent a desperate message to the human fleet. "Admiral Taewon, the Domari are targeting our cities. Our shields are down. We have no defenses left. Please, you have to stop them." Taewon looked at the tactical display. His fleet was too far away. The Domari ships would reach the cities in minutes. Millions would die. Everything they had fought for would be meaningless. "There has to be something we can do," Yuna said. Taewon's eyes found the Resolve's position on the map. His ship was damaged. Half its weapons were destroyed. But it was closer to the planet than any other human vessel. Closer to the Domari attack force. He made his decision. "Commander Yuna," he said quietly, "take command of the fleet." Yuna turned to look at him. Her face went pale. "Sir? The Resolve can intercept those ships. We can buy enough time for the rest of the fleet to arrive. That is suicide. Your shields are failing. Your weapons are almost gone." "I know." Taewon took off his command badge and placed it in her hand. "You will make a good admiral. Better than me. Probably. Taewon, please. There has to be another way." He smiled at her. It was a sad smile, but also peaceful. "There is not. And we both know it. Someone has to stop those ships. It has to be me." He turned to address his crew. Everyone on the bridge had heard the conversation. They all knew what was about to happen. Any crew member who wishes to leave may do so now. There are escape pods on Deck 7. I will not think less of anyone who chooses to live. No one moved. A young officer named Yoonbi spoke up. "Sir, we did not come this far to run away. If you go, we go with you." Taewon looked at his crew. Men and women from every corner of Earth. Young and old. Scared and brave. They were the best humanity had to offer. "Thank you," he said. "All of you. Now let us give these monsters something to remember." The Resolve turned toward the planet. Its damaged engines pushed it forward at maximum speed. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Fires burned in the lower decks. But the crew did not stop. They kept fighting. They kept moving. The 16 Domari ships saw the lone human cruiser approaching. They knew it was damaged. They knew it could not stop all of them. They split apart, trying to go around it. But the Resolve was not trying to fight them all. It was heading directly toward the lead ship, the biggest one, the one controlling the attack. "They are trying to avoid us," Hyunwoo reported. "Then we will not let them," Taewon replied. "Increase speed. Ram them if you have to." The Resolve's engines screamed in protest. The ship shook like it was about to break apart. But it kept going. Faster. And faster. The Domari lead ship tried to turn away. It was too late. The Resolve crashed into it at full speed. The collision was catastrophic. Both ships crumpled like paper. Explosions ripped through metal. Fire consumed everything. The Resolve's reactor went critical. In its final moment, it released all its energy in a massive explosion that destroyed not just the lead ship, but 3 other Domari vessels nearby. Admiral Taewon died instantly. So did most of his crew. They never knew if their sacrifice had worked. They never knew if the Valorans would survive. They only knew that they had done everything they could. On the Bridge of the Thunder, Captain Minho watched the explosion with tears in his eyes. He had known Taewon for 10 years. The Admiral had taught him everything about leadership. About sacrifice. About what it meant to be human. "All ships," Minho said, his voice breaking. "This is Captain Minho. I am assuming tactical command. Admiral Taewon has given us time. Do not waste it. Stop those Domari ships. Stop them now," the human fleet responded. Every ship that could move turned toward the planet. Fighters launched from every carrier. The remaining Domari attack. Ships suddenly found themselves surrounded. Lieutenant Sora led the assault. Her fighters screamed through space, weapons blazing. She was crying. She did not care. Her tears did not stop her from fighting. "For the Admiral," she shouted into her radio. "For the Admiral." 100 voices answered. The battle above Valoran Prime cities was short but brutal. The Domari ships fought hard, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, they fell. Some exploded in space. Others crashed into the oceans, far from the population centers. A few tried to surrender. They were allowed to live. When the last Domari ship was destroyed, Commander Yuna took a deep breath. She was now the ranking officer of the human fleet. The responsibility felt heavy on her shoulders. "Status report," she said. "The Domari attack force is eliminated," Hyunwoo reported. His voice was tired and sad. "Enemy losses are near total. Our fleet has lost 63 ships. 8,000 confirmed dead. The Resolve is gone." Gone. Such a small word for such a big loss. On the planet's surface, the Valorans watched the sky clear. The Domari ships that had been coming to kill them were nothing but debris falling into the sea. They were safe. They were alive. Commander Telos fell to his knees. Around him, his people were cheering, crying, holding each other. They had been saved. Against all odds, strangers from across the galaxy had come to rescue them, but Telos did not cheer. He had seen the Resolve's sacrifice. He had understood what it meant. "They died for us," he whispered. "They did not even know us. And they died for us." His aide, Lyra, stood beside him. "What kind of species does that?" she asked. "What kind of beings sacrifice themselves for strangers?" Telos looked up at the sky, where stars were becoming visible as the smoke cleared. "Heroes," he said. "They are called heroes, back in space." The surviving Domari fleet was running. Their formation was broken. Their command structure was destroyed. They fled into hyperspace, leaving Valoran Prime behind. The battle was over. The humans had won, but for Yuna, standing alone on a bridge that felt too empty, it did not feel like victory. It felt like loss. It felt like grief. She thought about Taewon, about his smile, about his calm voice, about all the times he had taught her and guided her. Now he was gone, and she had to carry on without him. Admiral Taewon, she whispered to the stars, I hope you can see this. I hope you know that we finished what you started, somewhere, across the infinite darkness of space. She liked to believe he was watching. 3 days after the battle, a ceremony was held on the surface of Valoran Prime. The humans had been invited to land, to rest, to be honored by the people they had saved. Commander Yuna, now acting admiral, accepted the invitation. The landing site was a great plaza in the capital city. Once, beautiful buildings had surrounded it. Now, many of them were ruins, destroyed by Damari weapons. But the Valorans had worked hard to clean the plaza. They wanted it to be perfect for their guests. Thousands of Valorans gathered to watch. They were tall, thin beings with blue skin and 4 eyes. Their bodies seemed fragile compared to humans. Their culture valued peace and art and knowledge. War was foreign to them. They had never built weapons. They had never trained soldiers. That was why the Damari had targeted them. That was why they had almost died. When the human shuttles landed, the crowd went silent. The doors opened, and human soldiers walked out in neat lines. They wore their dress uniforms, cleaned and pressed despite the difficult conditions. They walked with pride, but also with sorrow. So many of their friends were not walking beside them. Commander Yuna led the group. Captain Minho walked on her right. Lieutenant Sora walked on her left. Behind them came hundreds of officers and soldiers, each one a survivor of the battle. The Valoran leader, a being named Elder Norris, stepped forward to greet them. He was very old, his blue skin almost gray with age, but his 4 eyes were sharp and intelligent. Humans of Earth, he said, his voice carrying across the plaza. Words cannot express what you have done for us. You came from across the stars. You fought an enemy that was not yours. You bled and died for people you had never met. We do not understand this. We do not deserve this. But we are grateful beyond measure. Yuna stepped forward. She was not good at speeches. Taewon had always been the one who knew what to say. But she had to try. Elder Norris, she began. When we received your distress call, we did not know who you were. We did not know if you were friends or enemies. We only knew that someone was suffering. Someone was asking for help. On Earth, we have a saying. When someone drowns, you do not ask if they deserve to be saved. You just jump in the water. The Valorans murmured among themselves. The translator devices struggled to convey the meaning, but they understood the spirit of her words. We have lost many good people in this battle, Yuna continued. Admiral Taewon, Captain Ki-hyun, Lieutenant Park, Ensign Cho. So many others. They did not die for glory or conquest. They died because they believed that life is precious. All life. Yours, ours, everyone's. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The Damari saw your weakness and wanted to destroy you. We saw your weakness and wanted to protect you. That is the difference between us. That is what makes us human. Elder Norris was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He knelt. Every Valoran in the plaza followed him. Thousands of beings bowed their heads to the humans who had saved them. We will remember this day forever, Elder Norris said. We will teach our children about the humans from Earth, about the fleet that came from the darkness, about the admiral who gave his life for strangers. This is not just history. This is sacred. This is sacred. Yuna felt uncomfortable with the worship. She was just a soldier, just a person trying to do the right thing. But she understood that the Valorans needed this. They needed to express their gratitude somehow. Please stand, she said gently. We did not come here to be worshipped. We came here to help. And now, we want to help you rebuild. Over the following weeks, the human fleet stayed in the Valoran system. The ships that were too damaged to travel were repaired using Valoran technology. In return, humans helped clear debris from cities, rescue survivors from collapsed buildings, and restore power to damaged areas. The two species learned from each other. The Valorans were amazed by human resilience and determination. Humans were amazed by Valoran art, music, and philosophy. They were different in almost every way, but they found common ground in their shared desire for peace. Lieutenant Sora spent much of her time with Valoran children. They were fascinated by her, this small human who had fought so bravely in the sky. She taught them songs from Earth. They taught her games from their world. In those simple moments, the horror of war seemed very far away. "Why do you fight?" a young Valoran child asked her one day. "Fighting is scary. Fighting hurts." Sora thought about the question. "We fight so others do not have to," she finally said. "We carry the scary parts so you can play and laugh and be happy. That is our gift to you." The child did not fully understand, but he smiled anyway. Captain Minho found himself working alongside Valoran engineers. They were brilliant, far more advanced than Earth in many ways, but they had never thought about using their knowledge for weapons. The concept was alien to them. "How do you build such things?" a Valoran engineer named Delos asked him, pointing at the schematics for a human warship. "How do you create machines designed only to destroy?" "One," Minho sighed. "Necessity. On Earth, we were not always united. We fought each other for thousands of years. We learned to make weapons because we had to survive. It is not something to be proud of, but it is what saved you." Delos was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "there is wisdom in being prepared for darkness, even if you hope for light." A month after the battle, the human fleet prepared to return to Earth. The ships had been repaired. The wounded had been healed. It was time to go home. A final ceremony was held before departure. This time, it was more personal, more intimate. Only the senior officers attended, along with Elder Norris and a few Valoran leaders. "We have a gift for you," Elder Norris said. He presented Yuna with a small crystal. It glowed with a soft blue light. "This is a memory stone. Our people use them to preserve important moments. Inside this stone is our entire history, our art, our music, our stories, everything we are. We give it to you, so that Earth will always remember us, and so that we will always be connected." Yuna took the crystal carefully. It was beautiful and impossibly light. "Thank you," she said. "We will treasure this forever. And we have a question," Elder Norris continued. "You came when we called. But the galaxy is vast. Other species will suffer. Other worlds will burn. Will you come for them too?" Yuna looked at her officers, at Minho, at Sora, at all the survivors who had given so much. "We are not the guardians of the galaxy," she said honestly. "We are just one species among many. But when someone calls for help, truly calls, with desperation in their voice and fear in their hearts, we will answer. We will always answer. That is our promise to you. That is our promise to the universe." The human fleet left Valoran space the next day. As the ships jumped into hyperspace, Commander Talos watched from the surface. Beside him stood Lyra, now his closest advisor. "Do you think they will come back?" Lyra asked. "If we need them?" "Yes," Talos replied. "I believe that with all my hearts." "And the rest of the galaxy? What will they think when they hear about this?" Talos smiled for the first time in weeks. "They will learn what we have learned. That somewhere in the darkness, there is a small blue planet. And on that planet lives a species that will fight for strangers, a species that does not know how to give up, a species called humans." He looked up at the stars, toward the direction Earth lay. The galaxy will never be the same. On the Resolve's memorial stone, erected in the plaza where the ceremony had been held, the humans had carved a simple message: It was in both English and Valoran script. They answered the call, and below that, smaller, in Admiral Taewon's own handwriting, transferred from a letter he had written before the battle. We came because you needed us. We stayed because it was right. We died because some things are worth dying for. Remember us. And when you hear someone crying for help, do what we did. Answer. The memorial stood in the heart of Valoran Prime for 1,000 years. Every generation learned about the humans who came from the darkness. Every child knew their names. Admiral Taewon, Commander Yuna, Captain Minho, Lieutenant Sora, and all the others who had given everything for people they had never met. The story spread across the galaxy. Other species heard about the Battle of Valoran Prime. Some did not believe it at first. Who would fight and die for strangers? What species was that foolish? That brave? But the evidence was undeniable. And slowly, the reputation of humanity grew. They were not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the most advanced, but they were something else. They were the ones who answered. And in a galaxy full of darkness, that mattered more than anyone could say.